The grim darkness of the 41st millennium is a galaxy consumed by war, where countless factions fight for survival, domination, or the realization of enigmatic agendas. Amid this endless conflict, one question looms over the tapestry of galactic history. Which of the Xenos races stands as the most powerful? The answer is far from simple, tangled in a web of differing metrics: military might, technological advancement, cultural influence, and resilience. This is not merely a debate of numbers or armies, but of ideologies and ambitions. Every Xenos race, from the ancient Necrons to the ever-evolving Tyranids, brings something unique to the table, shaping the destiny of the galaxy in ways both seen and unseen. Some wield technologies far beyond the comprehension of the Imperium of man, while others harness the raw energies of the warp or possess biological adaptations that make them almost unstoppable. The clash of their strengths and weaknesses has defined epochs, destroyed civilizations, and rewritten the fate of entire star systems. To understand this question, one must first embrace the vast scale of Warhammer 40k's universe. The galaxy is a realm where the extraordinary is mundane, where star systems burn in the blink of an eye, and where millennia of warfare leave scars that shape the present. It is a place of extremes. There are no small players, no insignificant factions. Each Xenos race represents a unique force that could alter the balance of power should circumstances favor them. This exploration begins not with answers, but with questions. What does power mean in a universe where survival itself is an achievement? Can the cold, calculating Necrons truly be considered the most dominant? Or does the adaptive hunger of the Tyranids hold the key to supremacy? Could the psychic prowess of the Eldari tip the scales? Or does the brute force of the Orcs offer an unparalleled edge? And what of the enigmatic Tau, whose rapid ascension defies the odds? The stage is set, the players ready. In this grimdark galaxy, no answer is ever absolute, but the journey to uncover it will illuminate the true essence of the Xenos races and the immense forces that shape their destinies. In the chapters ahead, we will delve deeper into the key players, the circumstances that forged them, and the battles that define their rise or fall. For now, we stand at the precipice of discovery, ready to unravel the threads of one of Warhammer 40k's most enduring mysteries. Let the exploration of power and potential begin. In the sprawling, conflict-ridden galaxy of the 41st millennium, a host of Xenos races vie for survival, dominance, or the fulfillment of inscrutable goals. Each race brings its own distinct characteristics and strengths to this unending struggle, making them pivotal players in the question of ultimate power. From ancient civilizations to emerging empires, their presence defines the vast and brutal cosmos. Among the most ancient and enigmatic of these participants are the Necrons. These undying mechanical beings possess technologies so advanced they border on incomprehensible, granting them unparalleled destructive capabilities. They were once mortal, but now, as soulless entities, they operate with cold precision, often driven by the decrees of long-slumbering overlords. Their reach extends across the stars, and their ability to awaken dormant legions can turn any battlefield into a theater of annihilation. The Eldari, or Eldar as they are often called, are a stark contrast. Once the dominant race in the galaxy, their empire fell to ruin due to catastrophic hubris, yet their remnants endure as masters of finesse and psychic mastery. Splintered into different factions, such as the disciplined Asuriani and the piratical Corsairs, they wield a grace and precision unmatched by other species. Each Eldari life is a thread in a fragile tapestry, yet their collective will can reshape the course of galactic events. In stark opposition to their refinement are the Orcs, a race defined by raw strength, unrelenting aggression, and an innate desire for conflict. Where others might see chaos, Orcs thrive. Their biological and cultural traits are perfectly tailored for war, and their haphazardly constructed weapons and vehicles somehow function in ways that defy logic. Theirs is a power born of numbers and sheer belligerence, capable of overwhelming even the most disciplined armies. Emerging as one of the galaxy's most pressing existential threats, the Tyranids represent a wholly alien force. This relentless swarm consumes everything in its path, adapting and evolving with terrifying speed. Their strength lies not in individuality, but in their collective will, a vast hive mind that directs every organism with ruthless efficiency. Their hunger knows no bounds, and their capacity to devour entire star systems makes them one of the most feared entities in the galaxy. The Tau, though comparatively young, bring an entirely different perspective to the galactic stage. Their rapid technological advancement and philosophy of uniting under the banner of the greater good set them apart. They favor precision and strategy over brute strength, utilizing advanced weaponry and mechanized forces to devastating effect. Their expansionist tendencies and ideological zeal make them a rising power with the potential to reshape the galactic balance. Though often overlooked, other Xenos races play critical roles in the fabric of galactic warfare. The Drukhari, a dark offshoot of the Aldari, embody cruelty and hedonism, thriving on the suffering of others. Their raids and piratical activities make them a force to be reckoned with, even if their motivations differ vastly from those of other Xenos. The Hrud, elusive and enigmatic, embody entropy and decay, their influence felt in subtle yet devastating ways. The Kroot, while often allied with the Tau, possess unique evolutionary capabilities, adapting traits from those they consume, making them unpredictable and versatile. Adding to this dynamic are the enigmatic beings like the Khitan, ancient star-eating entities harnessed by the Necrons. While not a race in themselves, their existence complicates any assessment of power, as their influence can amplify or disrupt the actions of others. Similarly, minor Xenos species, from the resourceful Demiurge to the mysterious Rock Ghoul, add layers of unpredictability, each with their own unique contributions to the galactic chaos. This tapestry of races, each with its own strengths, weaknesses, and motivations, sets the stage for a complex and unrelenting struggle for supremacy. They are the architects of their destinies, the players in a game of incomprehensible scale, and the focal point of the galaxy's greatest conflicts. In this chaotic and brutal universe, the question of which Xenos race is the most powerful remains a subject of constant debate, influenced as much by circumstance as by intrinsic qualities. The endless question of which Xenos race is the most powerful arises from the very nature of the galaxy itself. A brutal, uncaring expanse where survival often hinges on understanding and overcoming one's adversaries. In the Warhammer 40k universe, this question is not merely academic, it is a matter of existential significance. The complex interplay of Xenos powers and their unrelenting pursuit of their own agendas has shaped countless wars, alliances, and betrayals across millennia. Understanding the nature of power in this chaotic landscape is essential not only for those who seek to endure, but also for those who aim to dominate. The galaxy of the 41st millennium is defined by conflict. At its core lies the struggle for survival in an environment where countless threats loom. Each Xenos race, driven by its own unique imperatives, has risen to prominence through resilience, adaptation, or overwhelming force. These traits are not born in a vacuum, but are responses to ancient rivalries, galactic catastrophes, and the relentless competition for resources, territory, and influence. The origins of the current balance of power lie buried in eons of war, evolution, and ambition. The ancient history of the galaxy is filled with the remnants of civilizations that once claimed supremacy, but fell due to internal strife, external threats, or cataclysmic events. The collapse of the Aldari Empire, the long hibernation of the Necrons, and the emergence of new forces like the Tyranids and Tau are testaments to the shifting tides of dominance. These cycles of rise and fall have left an indelible mark on the galaxy, creating a landscape where understanding strength is paramount. Knowing which Xenos race holds the greatest power allows other factions to gauge their own chances of survival or conquest. The galaxy's boundless scale also amplifies the importance of this question. It is a realm where star systems can be won or lost in a single battle, where entire planets can be consumed or annihilated, and where the fate of billions often hinges on the decisions of a few. In such a vast and dynamic arena, determining who or what wields the greatest power provides a critical lens through which the unfolding drama of galactic history can be understood. This is not a simple ranking of might, but a layered assessment of how power manifests and evolves in the face of unending war. Another factor driving this inquiry is the need to comprehend not just the present, but the future. Each Xenos race represents a potential threat or opportunity. The tyranid's insatiable hunger poses an existential risk to all life, while the Tau's rapid technological advancement raises questions about how far their influence might spread. The resurgence of the Necrons and their ancient technologies could destabilize the galaxy further, while the unpredictability of Orc incursions challenges even the most prepared military forces. To navigate these uncertainties, factions must assess who among the Xenos represents the greatest challenge or ally in the wars to come. This analysis is further complicated by the nature of the galaxy itself. The warp, a chaotic and malevolent dimension that underpins reality, influences every aspect of life and conflict. Its impact on the psychic capabilities of certain Xenos races, the unpredictability of travel, and the manifestation of chaos, entities all add layers of complexity to the struggle for supremacy. In this volatile environment, power is not static, but constantly shifting, making it even more critical to understand which Xenos race currently holds the upper hand. Finally, the question of ultimate power carries a philosophical weight. It forces those who contemplate it to grapple with the nature of strength, resilience, and influence. Is the most powerful race the one with the largest armies, the most advanced technology, or the greatest adaptability? Or does power lie in the ability to endure, to inspire fear, or to manipulate others to achieve one's goals? These questions are as much about the nature of the galaxy as they are about the Xenos who inhabit it. In this context, determining which Xenos race is the most powerful is not a simple exercise in classification. It is a lens through which the entire history and future of the galaxy can be viewed. The events, conflicts, and rivalries that have shaped this grimdark universe all stem, in some way, from the interplay of these powerful factions. By understanding the forces that drive them, one gains insight into the galaxy's past, present, and potential futures. It is a question that demands exploration, not for the sake of curiosity, but for the survival and domination of all who call this unforgiving galaxy home. The journey to uncovering which Xenos race is the most powerful unfolds across a series of critical milestones in the history of the galaxy. Each stage, shaped by monumental events and shifting dynamics, contributes to the broader understanding of power in the Warhammer 40k universe. These stages are not isolated moments, but interconnected threads that define the interactions, rivalries, and conflicts among the galaxy's most formidable factions. One of the earliest pivotal developments in the galactic stage was the emergence of ancient civilizations. The rise of the Necrontier, their war against the Old Ones, and their eventual transformation into the Necrons laid the groundwork for the first great struggle for supremacy. Their technological mastery and the catastrophic war that followed set a precedent for how power could be wielded and lost on a galactic scale. This marked the beginning of an era where technological prowess became a defining measure of strength. Simultaneously, the Aldari rose to prominence, creating one of the most advanced and culturally rich empires the galaxy had ever seen. Their psychic abilities, coupled with their unparalleled craftsmanship, allowed them to dominate vast regions of space. However, the eventual collapse of their empire, caused by their own excesses, signaled a turning point in galactic history. This event not only reshaped the power dynamics of the galaxy, but also left a vacuum that other factions sought to fill. As the galaxy transitioned into a new epoch, younger and more aggressive Xenos races began to assert themselves. The orcs, thriving in chaos and conflict, became a force of nature, their unrelenting war bands sweeping across sectors and challenging even the most disciplined armies. Their unpredictable nature and sheer numbers made them a constant variable in any equation of power. The arrival of the tyrannids marked another significant stage in this narrative. Unlike any other race, the tyrannids introduced an existential threat that transcended traditional warfare. Their relentless consumption of biomass and adaptive evolution forced every faction to reconsider how power could be countered or sustained against such an overwhelming force. Their presence reshaped strategic priorities across the galaxy, emphasizing the need for adaptability and resource control. The Tau, emerging as a relatively recent player, represent a different kind of progression. Their rapid technological development and expansionist policies highlight a new model of power, one based on innovation and ideology. Their ability to carve out a significant sphere of influence in a short time frame demonstrates that strength is not solely a matter of age or tradition, but can also stem from strategic foresight and unity. These overarching developments are punctuated by key conflicts that have tested the limits of each race's power. Wars between the Necrons and the Eldari during their early histories, the Orc incursions that have destabilized entire regions, and the relentless Tyranid invasions have all served as proving grounds for determining the strengths and vulnerabilities of each faction. These clashes have not only shaped the history of the galaxy, but also revealed the unique capabilities that each race brings to the table. The shifting alliances and rivalries among Xenos races further complicate this timeline. While direct conflicts often define their interactions, moments of uneasy cooperation have occasionally emerged, driven by mutual threats or opportunistic goals. These fleeting alliances underscore the complex nature of power in the galaxy, where survival often requires balancing competition with collaboration. As the current era unfolds, the resurgence of ancient powers like the Necrons and the expansionist ambitions of the Tau continue to challenge established hierarchies. The rise of new threats, such as the growing numbers of Tyranid hive fleets, adds an unpredictable element to this ever-evolving struggle. Meanwhile, the enduring presence of the Orcs and the fragmented but potent remnants of the Eldari ensure that no single faction can claim uncontested dominance. Each stage in this progression offers a piece of the puzzle, building toward a more comprehensive understanding of what it means to be the most powerful. By tracing these developments, we can see how the galaxy's complex history of war, ambition, and survival has shaped the dynamics of power. These events serve not only as milestones, but also as the foundation upon which the question of ultimate supremacy continues to be debated. In the galaxy of Warhammer 40k, determining which Xenos race is the most powerful requires examining a single pivotal moment that consolidates their strengths and influence. While all Xenos species possess unique attributes and advantages, there is one that rises above the rest when evaluated across all aspects: the Tyrannids. This designation hinges on a key event: the realization of their ultimate threat as an unparalleled force of biological adaptation and overwhelming consumption. The turning point that cements the Tyrannids as the galaxy's most formidable Xenos race occurs during their relentless invasions of the Milky Way. These invasions are not isolated incidents, but a coordinated effort by the hive fleets to devour every shred of biomass in their path. The scale of their threat became undeniable during the fall of several prominent star systems, where even the combined might of multiple factions proved insufficient to halt their advance. The specific event that underscores their dominance is the confrontation at Macragge, where the Ultramarines chapter of humanity faced Hive Fleet Behemoth. This pivotal battle revealed the true scope of the Tyrannids' power, demonstrating their unmatched ability to adapt, evolve, and persist in the face of seemingly insurmountable resistance. Despite suffering catastrophic losses, the Tyranids absorbed the genetic material of their enemies and adapted their tactics, ensuring their eventual return stronger and more prepared. This event exemplifies their central advantage, the capacity to treat every defeat as a step toward greater strength, turning setbacks into opportunities for growth. The significance of this moment extends far beyond a single battle. It marked the point where the galaxy's factions collectively recognized the Tyranids as a threat unlike any other. Their ability to coordinate vast numbers of organisms under a singular hive mind, combined with their biological ingenuity, places them in a league of their own. Unlike other Xenos races, whose power is tied to specific technologies, resources, or territories, the Tyranid's strength is intrinsic and inexhaustible as long as there are worlds to consume. This realization forced many factions to reevaluate their strategies and priorities. The Tyranid's presence has become a unifying factor in otherwise fractured alliances, as even sworn enemies occasionally find common cause in opposing the hive fleets. However, the adaptability of the Tyranids ensures that even these coalitions offer only temporary reprieve. Their evolving threat continually reshapes the galaxy's balance of power, positioning them as a race that cannot be outlasted or contained by conventional means. The implications of this key event also highlight the Tyranids' unparalleled influence on the galactic stage. While other races wield immense power in specific domains, technological superiority, psychic mastery, or brute force, the Tyranids excel across all aspects of conflict. Their ability to adapt ensures technological innovations are quickly neutralized. Their sheer numbers and coordination can overwhelm even the most disciplined armies. Their hive mind eliminates any possibility of internal dissent, allowing them to operate with perfect efficiency. This combination of traits places them at the pinnacle of Xenos dominance. This turning point is not merely about the destruction wrought by the Tyranids, but the existential dread they represent. Unlike the ambitions of other races, which are driven by ideology, survival, or conquest, the Tyranids seek nothing but consumption. Their motives are entirely alien, devoid of negotiation or compromise. This makes them a uniquely persistent threat, one that cannot be reasoned with or deterred. Their continued presence ensures that every faction in the galaxy must account for their influence, whether in direct confrontation or in the shadow of their inexorable advance. While other Xenos races have shaped the galaxy's history in profound ways, the Tyranids' singular focus and ability to transcend traditional limits of power make them the most formidable force overall. This realization reshaped the strategies and priorities of the galaxy's factions, confirming that the question of ultimate power begins and ends with the Tyranids. Their relentless adaptability, unyielding purpose, and insatiable hunger make them a threat that defines the very essence of galactic survival. This moment of clarity, born from their devastating incursions, solidifies their place at the apex of Xenos power. The immediate impact of the Tyranids being the most powerful race in the galaxy is felt in every corner of the Warhammer 40k universe. Their arrival brings a shift in the fundamental dynamics of conflict, economy, and survival, with no faction remaining unaffected. Unlike other Xenos races, whose objectives are varied or occasionally negotiable, the Tyranids represent an unyielding, all-consuming force. Their presence creates an existential crisis for every sentient species, forcing rapid and often desperate adaptations to counter their relentless advance. One of the most profound effects is the acceleration of militarization across all factions. For the Imperium of Man, the Tyranids' incursions necessitate massive reallocations of resources, fleets, and armies to bolster vulnerable sectors. Planetary defenses are fortified, and entire sectors are reorganized into bulwarks against potential hive fleet attacks. The strain this places on already overstretched forces exacerbates internal instability, making the Imperium less capable of responding to other threats. Similar impacts are observed among other races. The Eldari, for instance, find their already fragile existence further imperiled, as their dwindling resources must now contend with an enemy that cannot be reasoned with or manipulated. The economic repercussions of the tyranid's dominance are equally devastating. The ecosystems of entire planets are stripped bare in the wake of their invasions, leaving no chance for recovery. Trade routes are disrupted as fleets prioritize defense over commerce, while critical industrial worlds face increasing pressure to churn out war material at unprecedented rates. The loss of agricultural and mining worlds creates shortages that ripple across sectors, destabilizing even regions untouched by the tyrannids. For the Tau, whose carefully planned logistics and expansions rely on resource stability, these disruptions threaten the cohesion of their growing empire. Psychologically, the tyrannids impose a shadow of despair that weighs heavily on every species. Their relentless nature, devoid of negotiation or mercy, instills a unique kind of dread. Where other enemies might be evaded, manipulated, or defeated through diplomacy, the tyrannids offer no such avenues. This has a demoralizing effect on civilian populations and military forces alike, as the prospect of facing an enemy that devours everything in its path forces many to question the possibility of long-term survival. Entire planets have been known to fall into chaos upon the mere rumor of a tyrannid fleet approaching, with mass panic often leading to riots or outright collapse before the invaders even arrive. The tyrannid's impact on strategic priorities is equally significant. For the Imperium, Xenos extermination efforts that once targeted orcs, necrons, or other races are often deprioritized in favor of countering tyrannid threats. This shift inadvertently allows rival Xenos factions to grow in strength, further complicating the balance of power. Similarly, the Eldari must constantly weigh their efforts to preserve ancient knowledge and relics against the need to protect their remaining craft worlds from annihilation. Even the orcs, who typically thrive in conflict, find themselves struggling against an enemy that does not provide the same satisfaction as traditional warfare, given the tyrannid's lack of individuality or traditional combat structure. For the galaxy at large, the tyrannid's dominance drives an unprecedented sense of urgency among all factions. The need for cooperation, even among natural enemies, becomes more pronounced as the severity of the threat escalates. Temporary alliances, ceasefires, and covert negotiations occur more frequently, as rival factions recognize that their survival hinges on slowing the tyrannid's progress. However, such alliances are fragile, often breaking down under the weight of mutual distrust or conflicting agendas. This volatility only further destabilizes the galaxy, as each faction struggles to address the tyrannid threat while maintaining its own interests. The tyrannid's sheer adaptability and the scale of their invasions also force technological innovation at an accelerated pace. From bioengineered weaponry designed to counter specific tyrannid strains to enhanced defensive measures capable of withstanding planetary sieges, the galaxy's factions are compelled to push the boundaries of their scientific capabilities. For the Imperium, this often means revisiting ancient technologies long considered lost or forbidden, while the Tau dedicates significant resources to rapid prototyping and deployment of experimental systems. These advancements, while effective in the short term, frequently come at great cost, both in terms of resources and the stability of the factions implementing them. The immediate effects of the Tyranids being the most powerful race are not limited to tangible consequences. They also reshape the philosophical and cultural outlooks of the galaxy's inhabitants. The realization that an unstoppable, all-consuming force exists shifts perspectives on everything from religion to governance. Within the Imperium, the Tyranid threat reinforces the need for unity under the Emperor's divine will, leading to stricter enforcement of dogma and harsher penalties for dissent. Among the Tau, debates over the greater good intensify as leaders struggle to reconcile their ideology with the reality of facing a foe immune to diplomacy. The Aldari, meanwhile, retreat further into their mysticism, seeking answers in ancient prophecies and long-forgotten technologies. Ultimately, the immediate influence of the Tyranids as the most powerful race creates a galaxy on edge, where every decision, resource, and alliance is shaped by the need to counter their inexorable advance. This is not a world where victory is assured or even probable, but one where survival itself becomes the measure of success. The Tyranid's impact is a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the tenuous hold that any faction has over its future. In their wake lies devastation, adaptation, and a grim acknowledgement of their supremacy. The Tyranid's status as the most powerful Xenos race sparks intense debates within the Warhammer 40k community, particularly due to their unparalleled adaptability, unique biological design, and the mysteries surrounding their true scale and purpose. These aspects make them not only a formidable force in the galaxy, but also a source of fascination and speculation among fans and scholars alike. One of the most discussed elements is the Tyranid's evolutionary advantage. Unlike other races that rely on static technologies or finite cultural doctrines, the Tyranids are a living embodiment of adaptability. Their ability to analyze, assimilate, and evolve from every encounter gives them a level of resilience unmatched by any other faction. For example, when faced with a weapon or tactic that proves effective against them, the Tyranids can rapidly develop biological countermeasures. This constant state of evolution ensures that no victory against them is ever permanent, as they adapt to every strategy employed against them. This adaptability extends to their weaponry and physiology. The Tyranids do not manufacture traditional weapons, instead they grow them. Their bioorganic arsenal includes symbiotic creatures and living weapons that function as extensions of the hive mind's will. This approach eliminates logistical limitations faced by other factions, as the Tyranids require no factories, supply chains, or raw materials beyond what they consume. This self-sustaining war machine highlights their efficiency and independence, making them a near unstoppable force in prolonged conflicts. Another unique aspect often debated is the scale of their intelligence. While individual Tyranids act as extensions of the hive mind, the collective intelligence of the swarm operates on a level that rivals or even surpasses the most advanced artificial intelligences or psychic collectives in the galaxy. This decentralized, adaptive intelligence enables the Tyranids to coordinate across vast distances, executing complex strategies without the need for centralized leadership. The hive mind's ability to outthink and outmaneuver opponents makes it a force unlike any other, and many fans speculate that even the most sophisticated tactics of other races would ultimately fail against its sheer processing power. The community is also fascinated by the scale of the tyranid threat, which remains one of the greatest mysteries in the lore. What is currently seen in the galaxy represents only the leading edge of their invasion, often referred to as tendrils of the larger hive fleets. Speculation abounds about the true size of the Tyranid presence beyond the galactic fringe. Some theories suggest that the main swarm could dwarf the entirety of the galaxy's known civilizations combined. This notion fuels debates about whether the galaxy's defenders are merely delaying an inevitable extinction, or if there exists any realistic hope of repelling the full might of the Tyranid swarm. A particularly intriguing topic is the Tyranid's relationship with the warp. Unlike other factions that are either heavily reliant on the warp or deeply affected by it, the Tyranids possess a unique dynamic. Their hive mind creates a psychic presence that disrupts the warp, generating phenomena such as the shadow in the warp. This effect can sever psychic communication, isolate entire planets, and weaken the abilities of psychers, creating a significant tactical advantage. The implications of this ability spark debates about whether the Tyranids could even pose a threat to chaos itself, as their presence undermines the very fabric of warp-dependent entities. Another widely discussed aspect is the ethical and philosophical implications of the Tyranid threat. Unlike other factions, the Tyranids do not operate from malice, ambition, or ideology. Their motivations are purely biological, driven by an insatiable hunger to consume biomass and perpetuate their existence. This lack of traditional goals makes them an existential threat that cannot be reasoned with or understood in conventional terms. Some fans argue that this neutrality makes the Tyranids a more pure representation of natural selection, devoid of the corruption, arrogance, or flaws present in other factions. The Tyranids' interactions with other Xenos races also generate significant interest. For instance, their clashes with the Orcs create unique scenarios where two endlessly reproducing forces collide, leading to prolonged wars that have no definitive conclusion. Similarly, the Tyranids' encounters with the Necrons are often seen as battles between two ancient and alien forces that operate on entirely different paradigms, one biological, the other mechanical. These interactions highlight the Tyranids' ability to challenge even the most established and powerful races in ways that few others can. Finally, fans frequently discuss the narrative role of the Tyranids as an ultimate threat. While many factions in Warhammer 40k are embroiled in ideological or territorial conflicts, the Tyranids exist as a unifying danger to all life. Their presence forces unlikely alliances and desperate measures, creating some of the most dramatic and high-stakes scenarios in the lore. This narrative function solidifies their position as a unique and compelling aspect of the universe, driving both fear and fascination among those who follow the story. In the end, the Tyranids' unique characteristics make them not just a physical threat, but a conceptual one as well. They challenge the very idea of power, survival, and resistance in the galaxy, offering endless avenues for discussion and speculation within the community. These discussions underscore why they are not only feared, but also endlessly intriguing as the most powerful Xenos race. The galaxy's Xenos races boast a plethora of extraordinary individuals who embody the essence of their respective civilizations, serving as avatars of their cultures, ambitions, and power. These figures represent the pinnacle of their species, wielding influence and might that often shift the course of galactic events. While each Xenos race possesses unique qualities, the comparison of these individuals reveals not only their strengths, but also their limitations, providing a nuanced understanding of their role in the broader question of supremacy. Among the Necrons, the Silent King, Zarek, stands as a figure of immense influence and complexity. As the last ruler of the Necrontyr and the architect of their transformation into Necrons, Zarek carries the burden of his people's fate. His intellect is unparalleled, allowing him to orchestrate vast campaigns and manipulate events across millennia. However, his tragic flaw lies in the price of his ambition. The decision to enslave his race to the Khitan left him a ruler of soulless automatons, haunted by the knowledge of what was lost. Zarek's return to the galaxy marks a new era for the Necrons, as he seeks to restore their dominion and undo the damage of the past, showcasing both his resilience and his regret. In stark contrast to Zarek's calculated strategies is the sheer brutality of Ghazghkull Thraka, the most infamous Orc warlord. Ghazghkull epitomizes Orc culture with his relentless drive for war and his ability to unite vast war bands under his banner. His charisma and sheer force of will enable him to achieve what few Orcs can: sustained campaigns of galactic significance. Ghazghkull's strength lies in his raw determination and ability to inspire endless waves of Orcs to follow him, but his weakness is his reliance on constant conflict. Without a clear enemy or battle, Orc unity often fractures, a limitation that highlights the chaotic nature of their society. The Aldari's contributions to the galaxy's roster of exceptional beings are exemplified by Eldrad Ulthron, one of the most powerful Farseers of his kind. Eldrad's mastery of foresight allows him to navigate the tangled web of fate with unmatched precision, influencing events far beyond the reach of most mortal minds. His wisdom and strategic acumen make him a key player in the survival of the Aldari, but his reliance on prophecy also presents a vulnerability. The ever-shifting nature of the galaxy means that even his visions are not infallible, and his actions sometimes come across as cold or manipulative, driven by the greater good of his people rather than individual lives. In the Tau Empire, Commander Farsight represents a stark departure from the collective philosophy of the greater good. A brilliant tactician and leader, Farsight's campaigns demonstrate his ability to outmaneuver and defeat foes far more powerful than the Tau's young empire. His mastery of combat and leadership has earned him legendary status among his followers, but his break from the Tau's centralized authority reveals a deep internal conflict within their society. Farsight's independent streak and reliance on his own judgment, while strengths in battle, leave him isolated and at odds with his former comrades, raising questions about the limits of the Tau's ideology. The Drukhari bring a darker flavor to the table, with Asdrubal Vecht reigning as one of the most cunning and ruthless figures in the galaxy. As the supreme overlord of Kamara, Vecht exemplifies the Drukhari's reliance on manipulation, treachery, and personal ambition. His rise from a lowly servant to the ruler of the Dark City is a testament to his unmatched cunning and ability to exploit every opportunity to his advantage. However, Vecht's reign is built on fear and betrayal, making his power inherently unstable. His constant need to eliminate rivals and maintain control reveals the fragility of his position, even as he wields immense authority. Among the Tyranids, the Swarm Lord stands as a unique manifestation of the hive mind's will. Unlike other Tyranid organisms, the Swarm Lord possesses a continuity of consciousness, allowing it to carry over experience and tactical knowledge from one battle to the next. This makes it a peerless strategist and combatant, capable of adapting to any enemy with terrifying efficiency. The Swarm Lord's strength lies in its embodiment of the Tyranid's evolutionary perfection, but its lack of individuality or personal ambition differentiates it from the other figures. It exists solely to serve the hive mind, and while this makes it incredibly effective, it also means it cannot act independently or innovate beyond the collective will. The comparison of these figures highlights the diverse approaches to power and influence among the galaxy's Xenos races. Zarek's calculated leadership contrasts with Gazkul's unrelenting aggression, while Eldrad's foresight offers a counterpoint to Farsight's pragmatic independence. Vecht's ruthless cunning stands in stark opposition to the Swarm Lord's unthinking efficiency. These differences underscore the complexity of determining which Xenos race is the most powerful, as each figure embodies unique aspects of their civilization's strengths and weaknesses. Ultimately, these individuals reflect the broader struggles of their races, serving as microcosms of their respective cultures and philosophies. Their actions, motivations, and limitations provide valuable insight into the nature of power in the Warhammer 40k universe, offering a rich tapestry of contrasts and comparisons that deepen the question of supremacy in this grimdark galaxy. The question of which Xenos race is the most powerful in the galaxy is riddled with unresolved mysteries and theories that fuel debates among fans and scholars. These uncertainties are not only part of the in-universe narrative, but also central to the larger discussions surrounding Warhammer 40k, as they provide endless opportunities for speculation and interpretation. Some of the most fascinating and contentious aspects center on the unknowns about the Tyranids, the enigmatic nature of the warp, and the hidden potential of other Xenos races. A central point of contention is the true extent of the Tyranid threat. While the hive fleets encountered so far have proven devastating, there is much speculation about whether they represent only a fraction of the full Tyranid swarm. Theories abound that the Tyranids are merely scouting tendrils, testing the galaxy's defenses before the arrival of their main force. This raises the chilling possibility that even the galaxy's united factions would stand no chance against the full strength of the hive mind. Others theorize that the Tyranids' origin lies beyond this galaxy, potentially placing them as a force that has already consumed multiple galaxies in their endless quest for biomass. These ideas remain unconfirmed, leaving fans to wonder if the current conflicts with the Tyranids are merely the beginning of an even greater existential crisis. Another unresolved mystery involves the true nature of the hive mind. While it is widely understood to be a collective consciousness that controls the Tyranid swarm, its origins, motivations, and ultimate goals are less clear. Some suggest that the hive mind might be an entity born from the warp, a psychic manifestation of pure hunger and survival. Others propose it could be an ancient experiment or a weapon created by a now extinct race, unleashed with unintended consequences. The hive mind's uncanny ability to disrupt the warp and its interactions with psychic phenomena add layers of complexity to these theories, as it seems to straddle the boundaries of physical and metaphysical existence. The role of the warp in determining Xenos supremacy is another area of intense speculation. While some races, like the Aldari, rely heavily on the warp for their power, others, such as the Tyranids and Necrons, are notable for their ability to disrupt or resist its influence. This dynamic raises questions about whether reliance on the warp is ultimately a strength or a vulnerability. For example, the Aldari's psychic mastery allows them to manipulate fate and wield immense power, but it also exposes them to the dangers of chaos. By contrast, the Necrons' mastery of technology and the Tyranids' psychic disruption allow them to bypass the warp entirely, potentially granting them an edge in a galaxy so heavily influenced by its unpredictable nature. This dichotomy fuels debates about whether mastery of the warp or independence from it constitutes true power. The Necrons themselves are another source of unresolved questions. Despite their ancient origins and advanced technology, much of their past and potential remains shrouded in mystery. The Silent King's recent return suggests that the Necrons are on the cusp of a new era, but the full extent of their plans and capabilities remains unknown. Their ancient wars against the Old Ones hint at the possibility of even greater weapons and knowledge lying dormant within their tomb worlds, waiting to be unleashed. Additionally, the relationship between the Necrons and the C'tan raises further questions about the nature of their power. While the Necrons have enslaved shards of the C'tan to serve them, some speculate that these ancient star gods may one day regain their full strength, potentially altering the balance of power within the Necron race itself. The enigmatic origins of the Orcs also spark curiosity and debate. While it is widely accepted that they were created as a weapon by the Old Ones during their war with the Necrontyr and C'tan, the full scope of their design remains unclear. Some theories suggest that the Orcs possess untapped potential, particularly in their ability to influence reality through collective belief. Their technology, often cobbled together from scrap, functions in ways that defy conventional logic, leading to speculation that their latent psychic abilities play a much larger role in their success than previously understood. If the Orcs could somehow harness this potential in a more deliberate way, it is possible they could emerge as a far greater threat than they are currently perceived to be. The Tau Empire, though young compared to other races, presents its own set of unresolved questions. Their rapid technological advancement and expansion raise suspicions about whether they have received outside assistance. Some fans theorize that the Tau may have been influenced or even manipulated by an unknown force, potentially tied to the Warp or another ancient race. Additionally, their ideology of the greater good while unifying has created fractures within their society, as evidenced by figures like Commander Farsight. The long-term sustainability of their empire and their ability to maintain cohesion in the face of external threats remain open questions. Finally, the role of minor Xenos races and their potential contributions to the question of supremacy is often overlooked but remains a subject of interest. Races like the Hrud, who manipulate time, or the Rakgol, known for their savagery, may hold unique advantages that have yet to be fully explored. The galaxy's vastness ensures that countless unknown races likely exist, each with the potential to upset the current balance of power. These hidden or emerging forces add an element of unpredictability to the question of which Xenos race is truly the most powerful. These unresolved questions and theories illustrate the depth and complexity of the Warhammer 40k universe. They challenge the notion of a definitive answer, instead inviting ongoing exploration and debate. The mysteries surrounding the Tyranids, the Warp, and the hidden potentials of various races ensure that the discussion of Xenos supremacy remains one of the most compelling and dynamic aspects of the lore. The recognition of the Tyranids as the most powerful Xenos race carries profound and far-reaching consequences for the galaxy. This realization alters the strategic, philosophical, and existential landscape of the 41st millennium, forcing every faction to reevaluate its priorities and long-term survival. The dominance of the Tyranids reshapes the trajectory of galactic conflict, creating a future where adaptation and unity are no longer ideals, but necessities for survival. A key consequence of Tyranid supremacy is the redefinition of survival as the galaxy's primary objective. The Tyranids' ability to consume entire systems with ruthless efficiency leaves no room for complacency. This forces every faction, regardless of size or strength, to adopt a reactive stance. Defensive fortifications are expanded on an unprecedented scale, and the resources of countless worlds are diverted toward countering the Tyranid threat. For the Imperium, this strain exacerbates existing weaknesses, stretching its already thin defenses and accelerating internal decline. The resource demands required to repel the Tyranids further marginalize sectors deemed less critical, leading to famine, rebellion, and collapse in regions abandoned to their fate. The long-term psychological impact on the galaxy's inhabitants is equally devastating. The Tyranids represent a foe that cannot be reasoned with, appeased, or negotiated into retreat. For humans whose existence is deeply tied to faith and hope in the Emperor, the inability to frame the Tyranids in terms of divine justice erodes morale. Entire planetary populations, aware that they may be next in the swarm's path, live under constant fear. This psychological toll affects recruitment for the Astra Militarum and morale among Astartes and other defenders, as the scale of the Tyranid threat becomes increasingly undeniable. In the long run, the Tyranid presence changes the very concept of warfare. Traditional tactics and long-term strategies lose relevance against an enemy that evolves to counter every strength and exploit every weakness. The galaxy's factions are forced to innovate or perish. For the Imperium, this may mean embracing forbidden technologies, reactivating long-lost Mechanicum relics, or further empowering radical inquisitors willing to employ extreme measures. For the Aeldari, the war against the Tyranids becomes a desperate fight to preserve their remaining craft worlds, forcing them to rely on increasingly dangerous prophecies and relics. Even the Tau must reconsider their doctrine of the greater good, as their philosophy is tested against an enemy that cannot coexist within their empire. The rise of the Tyranids also destabilizes the balance of power among the galaxy's Xenos races. For the Orcs, the Tyranids provide an endless source of conflict, but the swarm's relentless nature may eventually exhaust even the Orcs' ability to regroup and recover. The Necrons, whose ultimate goal is to restore their supremacy, are compelled to confront a foe that threatens even their technological might. Long-dormant tomb worlds may awaken prematurely, and ancient weapons may be unleashed without regard for collateral damage, altering the galaxy's physical and political landscape. This dynamic heightens tensions among factions that previously operated in relative isolation, creating new rivalries and alliances as they grapple with the overwhelming threat. While the Tyranids' dominance seems catastrophic, it also fosters opportunities for unlikely cooperation. The sheer scale of the threat forces factions to set aside long-standing enmities, at least temporarily. Fragile alliances between the Imperium, Aeldari, and Tau, while fraught with mistrust, could emerge as a necessary response to the Tyranids. These alliances, while rarely enduring, could lead to the exchange of technologies, ideas, and tactics that reshape the galaxy's military and cultural landscape. For instance, the Imperium's exposure to Tau Innovation or Aeldari psychic mastery could accelerate advancements that might otherwise take centuries to achieve. The Tyranids' relentless advance also drives a deeper philosophical shift across the galaxy. For the Imperium, the realization that even faith and divine authority may not be enough to halt the swarm challenges the core tenets of its ideology. This existential crisis could spark a resurgence of human ingenuity and innovation as desperate populations turn to science and rediscovered technologies for salvation. Conversely, it could deepen the Imperium's authoritarian grip as leaders enforce stricter controls to maintain order in the face of growing despair. On a galactic scale, the Tyranid's dominance raises profound questions about the future of life itself. As they consume more biomass, the galaxy's ecosystems face collapse, leaving barren worlds in their wake. This depletion forces surviving factions to explore new frontiers, including the search for resources in neighboring galaxies or the development of entirely synthetic ecosystems. The long-term sustainability of life in the galaxy becomes a pressing issue, driving unprecedented levels of exploration and technological experimentation. The Tyranid's presence also forces a re-evaluation of the role of other Xenos races. As the galaxy's factions grapple with the swarm, minor Xenos species may rise to prominence by leveraging unique abilities to resist or delay the Tyranid advance. Similarly, the Necron's knowledge of ancient galactic history and technology could become a critical resource for those willing to negotiate uneasy truces with them. This shifting dynamic underscores the interconnectedness of the galaxy's races, as even the most isolated factions are drawn into the conflict against the Tyranids. Ultimately, the long-term consequences of the Tyranid's supremacy reveal a galaxy irrevocably changed. Whether through alliances, innovations, or the sheer will to survive, the factions of the 41st millennium are forced to evolve in ways they never anticipated. While the outcome of the Tyranid threat remains uncertain, their impact ensures that the galaxy will never return to its previous state. The question of who is the most powerful Xenos race is no longer an abstract debate, but a lived reality that defines the future of every being in the universe.